Some guys take their calls on superphones. Some ladies field their calls on phablets. But it takes some real gall, a real desire to challenge society's conventions to make your phone calls on a tablet you hold up to your head. Among other topics, that's what we're talking today on episode 043 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast from Pocketnow.com where we discuss smartphones, tablets, and the state of mobile technology in the year 2013. I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and today I'm joined all the way from Oradea by Managing Editor Anton D. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody.
And we're also joined by Senior Editor and Chief Carolinian Taylor Martin. Hello to you.
Howdy.
Welcome aboard, gents. We have a lot to discuss in terms of weird off-the-wall stuff and not a lot of headline news, which is kind of an interesting inversion from the past few weeks, wouldn't you say? Personally, I'm looking forward to a podcast that is only maybe 10% or less dedicated to talking about the Galaxy S4. And we want to kick it off with a thought thread courtesy of Managing Editor Anton, and that is relating to the teaser that I postulated a second ago, talking on a tablet. Tony, your Fonepad review is up, and we all want to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's been an interesting experience, I can tell you that much. I've been using it as my daily driver from, I think it was 2 Fridays back, up until the moment I published my review. And since I've been using it since Friday, I've used it also as my daily driver for clubbing activities, for hiking activities, and for everything else. So while everybody was pulling out their iPhones and their HTCs and Samsungs, I just slapped the slab on the table. I almost bumped over a bottle of, I'm not going to make any announcements of what it was. So thing is, I would still be using the ASUS Fonepad as a daily driver if my particular unit had a back-facing camera. And this is a small rant of mine. The entire point behind the ASUS Fonepad is that you leave your phone at home so that you can take your phone calls on a device which is both a tablet and a phone. I can agree to that. But now, since you don't have a back camera, you leave your phone at home, you take the Fonepad, but you still have to bring your phone or a camera with you because you cannot take any pictures. So that's just kind of dumb from ASUS.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if it's positioning itself to be a smartphone replacement, it should definitely have a primary camera built in.
And I had thought of this. People not only laugh at you; the laughter goes away after your first phone call. People heavily frown upon the Fonepad, and not necessarily the Fonepad as the ASUS product. The entire concept of talking on something so outrageous that they don't know what it is. So I think that the problem with the Fonepad is, and the products alike, is society itself. And I want to ask you this, guys. We know that there is no limitation to including phone and earpiece functionality on a tablet. Still, only a couple of OEMs do it. Do you think it's the social factor?
Taylor, I'm going to let you go, yeah.
Sort of, but it's also kind of an efficiency thing. Sure, if you can carry a 7-inch or 8-inch tablet and feel comfortable with that, by all means, I think it's a valid option. But it looks strange, and that's the whole social part, that we're trained to think that holding any other device up to our head looks normal. But if you stand back and think about it, if someone from 50 years ago, 60 years ago, saw us and holding something up to their head all the time like this, or staring at something that we carry in our pockets and connect to the world
how will
with.
People look at me when I will hold up not my tablet to my ear, but my brand new Galaxy S4 Zoom camera to my ear? I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Last year he was talking on his tablet. Now he's talking on his camera. What the hell is wrong with him?
I felt ridiculous enough just for the 10 seconds it took to take that picture with the Galaxy camera up against my head for the Galaxy camera as a daily driver piece. I can imagine doing that on a consistent basis. Go ahead, Taylor. Sorry, you're not done.
But no, I mean, if someone from 30, 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. Anybody from the past beyond the birth of the cell phone I'm sure they said the same things when the first cell phone came about. The bag phone. Why would someone carry a bag and hold this thing up to their ear to talk to someone? I've got a phone at home. So I don't know. Maybe it's a little different, but I personally would never carry a tablet as a smartphone replacement to hold up to my head to answer calls. I wrote an editorial about it, and I'm fine. I take calls on my iPad all the time. I'm okay with plugging in a headset or a Bluetooth headset or something that doesn't have me holding a huge device up to my face. So
yeah, but that's an option. I mean, the HTC One and the S4 have an infrared blaster. You don't have to use it. Just slap an earpiece there. You don't have to use it. But those three people, me, the biggest fan, probably the ASUS guy who came up with the idea of the Fonepad, and that one single guy from Samsung who, against all naysayers, slapped an earpiece on the Note 8.0. Us three can enjoy it.
Well, it's a good point. I think, though, that like you have to factor in cost cutting, like for different models. Like, I don't think the Nexus 7 would have been as cheap as it is if they had built in some of these extras that some people wanted, like a primary camera or like an earpiece. I mean, I feel like at some point you have to say, well, are we making a complete product, or are we making a product that's going to sell for much less money, and that's going to be its differentiating factor? But I think they've managed to keep the the cost down on the Fonepad, right? That's pretty
absolutely
cheap
yeah.
tablet.
I paid for it $333, but it's an expensive country, so you might be able to get it for $249.
I wonder what it would be without the earpiece. You think it would be like $239, $229?
Without the earpiece, but maybe with a stronger, faster processor.
Right. Oh, right. And there's a lag thing. Well, see, here's the thing. I get, Tony, why you would want to do that. I think it's like a simplification factor. It's like, okay, I'm going to carry this one device. I've got my Nexus 7 actually right here on the table, so I can sort of get a feel for what you're talking about.
They're twins.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, ASUS is not an idiot. So I want to make clear that they may not be positioning the Fonepad as a total replacement if they haven't built in a primary camera. But if you're going to use it that way, like my problem would be primarily in pocketability. But that social factor would definitely creep in. And to answer your question, Tony, yeah, I think it's definitely a side effect of the way we are conditioned to think of what is normal, as Taylor was saying. But also, as a result of that, I think we've all grown used to people trying to make a splash. Yeah. People trying to showboat. And anytime back in the day when people would have their super clear cases on their phones with the flashing LEDs or some kind of really ostentatious, like bejeweled casing, they'd roll up and be like, oh, you are trying to impress me. Okay. I feel like I would feel the same way about someone who rolled up to like my dinner table at the club or something like that when talking on a Fonepad.
And you were in this situation. You were telling us about people calling you out on the streets when you used the Note 2 for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all the time. And actually, that still happens consistently with the Note 2. Whenever I take it out, people are like, what is that, man?
Yeah. I had someone ask me if my Note 2 was an iPhone.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I reached over the table and smacked them.
with your Samsung iPhone.
Yeah. So
no,
no, go ahead.
Okay, we agree.
No, I totally agree with Michael. But I'm not against using, like I said, I'm not against it. I just, the whole holding it up to my head thing, and it's just, I don't know, it doesn't seem efficient for taking calls. I mean, would you do the same thing with a 10-inch tablet?
No, you cannot hold that. I mean, I could hold that with one hand, but you cannot. Yeah, 99% of the people cannot.
Tony, what's the story on like hand fatigue when you're doing that? Like you're holding the thing up to your head, and I mean, sure, for 2 minutes is fine, but what if you're having like a 45-minute phone call?
No, if I extend my palm completely and I lay the Fonepad vertically, I'm having like more than 1 inch on the left and more than 1 inch on the right, so I can easily grasp it without any problems. But then again, I have big hands.
Yeah.
And it's not a heavy device, not at all.
Right. I've forgotten. Is it lighter than the Nexus 7 or?
From the top of my head, I cannot tell you, but let's say it's about that weight.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's an interesting experiment. It's definitely I think it's instructive in that it's showing us the threshold of the boundaries of kind of what we will tolerate, both as users and as society in general. Like I don't see the 7-inch phone catching on, but that gives us an interesting delineation point where it's like, okay, so eventually these phablet makers will reach this cutoff point. And how big can screens really get is, I think, a question that's been asked for over a year now in the landscape. And it's like, well, I don't know. You can make bezels slimmer. You can get the device to almost an all-screen, configuration with fancy software tricks to prevent false touches from grabbing the unit and stuff. But like, how big can it actually get? I don't think it can get as big as 7 inches. I think the cutoff is somewhere south of 6 inches myself.
Yeah, the Galaxy Mega.
Ugh. Yeah.
Well, we also said the same thing about the original Galaxy Note. Everybody said, why would anybody ever want a 5.3-inch phone? Why? Nobody's ever going to want to use that. It's way too big. Nobody's going to want it. And look at it. And look at the Galaxy Note 2.
Right.
The truth is... I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was done.
The truth is that the Note 2, while being an excellent product, is not tablet enough. It is still a big phone. And what makes it so popular, I think, it's not its actual physical size, but the S Pen functionality. So even though we're going beyond 5 inches, it is not tablet enough.
I don't know. I think that it's size more than the S Pen, at least here. Like in America, I was sitting next to a guy at a theater function recently, who's an acquaintance of mine, and he pulled out his Note 2. I'm like, "Oh, you just got that, didn't you?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, so I just kind of interview him for a little bit. I'm like, "So what was the driving force there?" And he's like, "Well, it's so big." And then I told him, I was like, "I wrote a piece once called what was it called?"
Jumbo phones?
No, well, yeah, I've written about 40 pieces with that word in the title. No, it was like, oh yeah, with phones this big, who needs a tablet? Is what it was. And, he was like, that's exactly right, because I was thinking about buying a tablet, but then I figured, why invest in a tablet and a smartphone? I'll just get this, and this will serve both those needs. And I get that, man. I'm looking at the Note 2 right now as well, and definitely if I was on a real budget, but I still wanted a smartphone and a tablet, I would consider the Galaxy Note 2 to serve both those needs, because it's almost the best of both.
So I know it's not
Why
my
not the
job.
HomePad, Michael?
What?
Yeah. I was about to say, I know it's not my job to wrap the topic up, but I'd like to wrap it up with a question to you guys.
It is your job to wrap it. It's your topic. Yeah.
What's the biggest sized device you will put up to your ears?
In screen size or
In screen size.
If they were to get the bezel down, I would still put up I would go as high as 6 inches if it had an almost invisible bezel.
So the Mega 5.8, yes. The Mega 6.3, no.
yeah, around there. You're right. Yeah, that's where I'll sit right now. Yeah. Taylor?
I'll try anything. I would try taking a call with a tablet, an 8-inch tablet up to my head, but chances are I'm probably not going to like anything much larger than the Note 2, just for reasons of carrying it. So,
right.
I don't have a belt clip or anything that's going to hold a tablet, and I don't carry a bag everywhere. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah, no, Tony, thank you for your PhonePad thoughts. I think your review came out on a show where you were not on the air, and I was like, I want to hear more of your thoughts, and then I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Because I kept interrupting you.
Right, yeah. Well, interrupting Taylor. That should be a joke series, shouldn't it? Interrupting Taylor Martin.
Man, you have no idea. There was a long, ongoing joke with all my friends all through high school, my family, everything. Every time I open my mouth, it just so happened, and this still goes on today, every time I open my mouth, something would just happen. Somebody would cut me off, or some loud car or truck would drive by as soon as I'm talking, and when I'm done, the noise is gone.
Are you serious?
And it happens perfectly every time. I was sitting at the coffee shop yesterday talking to a friend, and I was like, hey, man, you know what? And he's like, what? And I go to talk, and the coffee grinder goes off. And for 2.5 minutes, I'm like, how in the world? So if we made a show or a joke like that, it's not my first time.
You should capitalize on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Taylor, you could probably have your own, reality show.
Probably could.
We'll just follow you around with an over-the-shoulder cam all day. It's like being frustrated with Taylor Martin.
Yeah. I go to talk and just...
Yeah,
whatever. I'm done.
I
give up.
Yeah.
So I take that out on the podcast and just cut you off.
Remind me next time we're on the U review or something like that. I'll just break out the soundboard and make sure to just overwrite all your stuff. I want to change up the rundown a little bit as we jump into the Android section, our first section of the podcast, because we finished up talking about the Fonepad and big smartphones and phablets. And so I want to just briefly touch on what Taylor Martin thinks the Galaxy Note 3 needs to be to avoid being a disappointment. And we know what the commenters think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got ripped another one in the comments. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could comment like, hey, guys, in that comment thread, and they'd just be like, all thumbs down.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Screw you, guy.
That's the most confusing thing about our Discuss environment is that, like, somebody will post the most helpful comment ever. I know I've said this before, but, like, it'll be a piece that asks a question. It's like, here's this problem that many people have been having with their Nexus 4. And then somebody who replies with exactly the way to fix it and, like, a smiley face and also compliments for everyone will get, like, 18 downvotes. Meanwhile, somebody who comes along and says, like, at least it's better than iPhone and nothing else, we get like 26 upvotes. It's like, what are people using bots? Is there something I don't understand about gaming Discuss? I don't know. Whatever.
I have no idea. But in regards to the question or the editorial, out of all the things that I could think of, obviously it needs to be upgraded to 2013 specs.
This is the Note
obviously.
3. We're talking the Note 3. Okay.
Note 3. So it needs to be upgraded to 2013 specs. That's a given because any upgrade is going to be upgraded to new specs. Mm-hmm. But there were rumors saying that Samsung is, quote unquote, worried about their build quality and the materials they use. I don't know how much I agree with that or believe the rumor, but that's something that I hope and would wish that Samsung would do is reevaluate the materials they use. And I made it clear in the article that plastic is not bad. There are great plastics out there to use. It's the plastics that Samsung uses and the coating they put on their plastics that make them feel...
Yeah.
I
was going to say...
That make them feel so cheap.
Most definitely that hyperglaze is to blame for most of it and not the material itself, yeah.
Yeah, and the comments were, oh my God, who cares about the build quality? Who cares about what it's made of? It's all about the other parts of the phone.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe.
No. I see, and I just replied right before we came on the air. I just replied to one of those comments where it's like, no, you guys weren't saying the Galaxy S3 was badly built until the One came along. And I was like, actually, no, that's not true. Here's a link to my review where I complain that it feels cheap in the hand.
The One came along before the S3.
Right. Yeah, right.
And two, I hated the Galaxy S3. Oh, the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Well, you said S3.
I did. No, but I meant the 3. Yeah. We're now in a confusing spaghetti bird nest of failure.
Not the One X. Whoa, not the One X. The One X came first.
Yes,
Sorry.
Yes.
Ooh.
No.
I hated the one. No, I hated the build of the Galaxy S3 from day one. Exactly. I touched it and I'm like, ew.
Yeah.
And no spoilers. And I promise my review. I've done my research. My review will be subjective.
This is the review of the AT&T branded Galaxy S4, correct?
Yes. It's very subjective. I've taken a very broader view of the device.
Objective.
What, objective?
Yeah.
Subjective? I don't know. I'm so
We're going to do this on every show now.
Let's do it.
Yes, objective. Yeah.
But I picked up the phone, and I told, I think, Tony and Michael this. I picked up the phone when it came in on Friday, and I'm like, man, this is literally just like a Galaxy S3, just more square, and put it back in the box. I just dropped it back in the box, finished what I was doing, and I'm like, I can't. But you don't get that impression from a phone that's built really well. It's that first impression that really just kind of seals the deal, at least for me.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
I had a friend who was looking at getting the S4. She's been like, I want the S4. I want the S4. I can't wait. When is it coming out? When is it coming out? Well, I sat down at the coffee shop yesterday. She came in, and I had the S4 and the One. And I've been telling her, there are other phones out there too, but, don't make your decision before you even use the phone. Just, wait. Mm-hmm. And I handed the two phones to her, and I said, which one feels more expensive? And she's like, the One. It's like, exactly. Like, the Galaxy S4 is the more expensive device. It's more premium in regards to specifications and its utility and the features. But it feels like a mid-range device. It really does.
Taylor, would you have had the same opinion about the S4 if the S4 would have been the S3? Now, this is a dumb question. Let me rephrase. Did you get it?
No.
Okay, so are you having this impression of the S4 because you know the S3 is the same and you hate the materials on it? So let's say that the S4 is the first Samsung S device to use this coating, this design, this everything. And to rephrase it even further, have you had this opinion of the S3 last year?
Yes. I said, you could probably look it up on Twitter. I said as soon as it was announced, I said the Galaxy S3 looks like a feature phone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it kind of does. And the S4 is less so, looks less like a feature phone. But yes, to answer your question, yes, I didn't like the build or design of the Galaxy S2 or the original Galaxy S series. I didn't like the S3, and I don't like the S4 as far as build and quality go.
Yeah, so we're talking about, I was looking up my review of the Galaxy S3 for Sprint last year, and I think, Taylor, you and I are making the same point, because what I said last year was, here's what we're saying, this isn't a mid-range gingerbread device for high schoolers. This is a $600 flagship class superphone, and in the hand, it doesn't feel like it. Yeah. That's a shame. You know, yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like getting a sports car, and the interior of the sports car not being leather, but being like a vinyl pleather.
Right.
And all the dashboard is just a cheap, like, matte, flimsy plastic.
Yeah.
The outside of the car is like a cheap plastic.
You can knock on the inside of the door and it's hollow. Like, the thing feels cheap. Yeah.
Like, if you pick up the phone like the S4 and you kind of like slap it in your palm, the whole thing just kind of vibrates and you can actually hear it vibrate.
Yeah.
Well, and about this time, I can imagine at this exact point the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They're going to kill us.
And also, we have to make the point that the Samsung is not the prime offender, is not the single offender here. You can do that with the Lumia 920, which feels like a tank, but of course it had that problem with the battery wasn't taped down well enough or something, so it would rattle around. Like other manufacturers do this, but 2 points. Yeah. One, you can't say that aesthetics are not important to a smartphone. If you want to be, you're fine. We're all geeks here. That's great. We're all different flavors of geek, and that's cool. But aesthetics are important for something you carry around with you all day for 2 years, whether it's how it feels in the pocket, how it feels in the hand, or a lot of people care how it looks. So, eat it.
Oh, yeah.
Second point is this. How does this apply to the Note 3, Taylor? Because you were making a point that you feel like the Note 3 should be the pioneering force that takes Samsung to the next level of aesthetic design or hardware design, but you also, I think, don't think that that's likely, right?
I don't think it's likely, and I think actually the S4 should have been that.
Yeah. Right, and see, here's the thing. I was having this conversation last night at bar trivia with a friend of mine, where it's like we're talking about iPhone versus the Galaxy family, and we're like, yeah, well, this is what Apple and Samsung have fallen into this pattern of doing, right? They do breakthrough 1 year, incremental improvement the next year, breakthrough the year after that, and then an iterative upgrade. So, and
I understand that because of contracts and the rate at which normal people buy phones.
Sure. But so how does the Note 3 fit into that, though? Because what has the Note been so far? Note 1 was just like, oh my God, what is this thing? And then Note 2 was like, oh, this is way different because, guys, it was slimmer, right? It was easier to hold. It was much more smartphone than weird, kind of shot in the dark, wide phablet, right?
Yeah. To put it, I guess, in a better perspective, the original Note was like the iPad Mini. It's really wide, but you go to like the Nexus 7, and that's what the Note 2 feels more like if you compare it with like a tablet, because it's you're not losing a lot of display, but you're actually getting more display, but the actual physical size is bigger.
You know what? Can I just throw this out there real quick? And I'm sorry, I know I asked you a question. And Tony, you have one too. Taylor's got one. We all three have used Note 2 rather extensively. Do you guys feel like this is going to be the next like vaunted superphone that people are already getting nostalgic about losing? Because I feel like there's a huge fanboy class for this phone that is just above and beyond. It's almost equal to the fanboy level surrounding the HD2. Does that make sense?
I definitely. I don't want to like. My friend was asking me the other day. There was a guy posting an HTC One on Craigslist for like $500, I think, and I was like, man, I could just trade my Note 2 and some cash for that. And I'm like, dang, I really don't want to get rid of my Note 2. I don't use it. I don't use it outside of videos.
But you don't want to get rid of it.
I do not want to get rid of it.
What about you, Tony?
I'm sorry, I was muted and then speaking, and then realized I was muted, and then I coughed. So there we go. I like the Note 2, but I'm not a huge fan of the Note 2, and I believe the Note 2 is not by far is not at all more special than the S3. Just like the Note 3, it will not be more special than the S4. About the only thing which ties me to the Note 2 is its exceptional battery life, as you and I, Michael, have experienced in Barcelona, and as I have recently expanded it to a 6400 milliamp hour battery. That's the only reason keeping me tied. Yeah, that's the only reason keeping me tied to the Note 2 or the Note 3 if it comes out in August/September, if it will deliver the same battery life I need.
I was saying
So
this. Go ahead.
Are you going to upgrade to the 9,000 milliamp hour battery, Tony?
As soon as I get it, yeah.
See,
That thing is a monster.
I was talking about missing the Note 2, I think maybe on last week's Weekly or on the U Review or something like that, and I still continue to miss it. And this Note 3 has me excited. I think we're all pretty convinced that we're going to see it in Berlin, right, in August. That's still, there's been no indication to the contrary. I also, Taylor, I join you in hoping that Samsung strikes out on a different direction. As I've said before, though, I think that their Galaxy S line is where the pioneering innovation happens. I don't think it really. In terms of aesthetic design, in terms of hardware.
Yeah, but there are so many things that they could do without drastically changing much of anything.
Yeah.
The Note 2, for instance, feels a lot better in the hand than the S3 or the S4 by a long shot.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's the weight. So Samsung focuses so much on making their flagship phone, as you said in your review, extra portable. And by doing that, they made it extremely, extremely lightweight. But 130 grams over something that's 180 grams isn't really that significant. I mean, there's a big difference in that weight. You can feel it when you're holding them, but It's not like 180 grams is going to pull your pants down when you put your phone in the pocket.
True.
So
I'm
just saying, I mean... So the worst thing I've had to do with the S4 was take the battery out. Have you done that, Michael? Taken the battery out and just held the phone and the phone and the battery door without the battery in it?
No, I wouldn't want to do that. No,
it feels like 90% of the weight is the battery. Like if you hold the phone itself, it feels like it would just kind of blow out of your hand if a strong gust of wind.
That's also valid for the Note 2 too.
Well, it's heavier. It's not. They didn't really cut weight on the Note 2. They just slapped it all together.
It's screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heavy. Even without the battery in it, it's heavier.
Right.
But to that point, I'm saying that just use a better material, a thicker plastic. Like you have your Nexus 7, right?
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
And you have the Fonepad. The back of that feels amazing. Yeah. And it's cheap plastic.
It's this soft touch plastic, and not only is it like cheap plastic, but it's stippled. It feels nice because it offers a little bit of friction. And next to the I'm putting the Nexus 7 right next to the Galaxy Note 2, and next to the Note 2, the Nexus 7 looks, I will say this, less premium if you just flip them over and put them on their faces, because Samsung has the market cornered on this awesome kind of faux metallic hairline aluminum brushed metal finish. That's not real metal. No, it is though.
It's like a smooth chrome.
No, it's not. It's not smooth. It's brushed. It's brushed horizontally across the back. I mean, I have the gray one.
I think yours is just scratched.
No. Well, actually, and none of them look anywhere near as good as the back on the Ativ S, which I also have here, and whose After the Buzz episode should air today. Assuming it will. It'll get published later today. And the Ativ S looks just gorgeous, and it's a real shame that it didn't make it to any kind of relevance. But I don't know. I think that there's a really, really good case to be made for using cheaper plastic that feels good in the hand, but that you can apply a pattern to. The Nexus 7 is a very good example of that. I don't think we'll see that on the 3, though.
The Galaxy Nexus is another great example. It's cheap plastic, very thin, but that phone felt so much better, so much sturdier.
I loved the Galaxy Nexus in the hand. Tony, did you ever have one of those?
The what?
The Galaxy Nexus?
No. I only played with yours, Nexus.
Uh-huh.
No, that's what she said here.
Uh-huh.
And with Jaime's Nexus.
Okay, and now they're one and the same.
Yeah, yes. I mean, just bring that back. Bring it back.
Agreed. I
don't
actually
even.
was
They don't have
saying
to go
that on
metal.
Note 3. Yeah.
Yeah, they
No,
don't have
they
to
don't
go
have to go
metal.
metal at all. No, you can do different fun stuff with plastic. Yeah. Well, all right. We have to move on from the Note 3, but
Let me tell you my prediction, because I didn't have an input on what I expect from the Note 3 or
Yeah,
what I think it will be.
what
Just
do
it
you
will be
think,
a
Tony?
one-sentence feedback.
no, please go.
I think, and I'm gonna phrase like those stupid logical IQ questions. The Note 3 will be for the S4 exactly what the Note 2 was for the S3.
Yeah.
Meaning they will look most probably the same. The Note 2 is not the device, it's not the launch where Samsung introduces new things. So I'm expecting same looks, same build quality, maybe a faster Exynos Octa processor with LTE support and proper 4G bands for all the world, 1080p Super AMOLED screen, a little bit smaller bezel, larger screen, and boom, there's your Note 3.
And did you mention the camera already? 13
The
megapixel
camera, the same
sensor?
camera as on the S4.
Yeah.
Well, just one counterpoint, and we can move on.
Yeah.
The whole Note itself, the Note line, is a new venture. So if you look at it like that, you have an S Pen, you have things that no other Galaxy devices have. So
It was when it was first introduced, but now at its second and third iteration is just
It's
a product.
maturing. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't believe that anything will happen, but I'd love for it too. So just stop killing my dreams, Tony.
I think next year will be the year for a huge S5 and Note 4 redesign, and that's going to be probably the phone to get.
And I wonder if the roots of that redesign will start with a cellular phoneization of the Galaxy Player 5.8. I think I wrote a piece about that a while ago, where you that Galaxy Player with the front-facing speakers, the 5.8-inch screen, right? I would like to see
that. You said that like I would have 4 years ago. Front face and speakers.
y'all ever seen them front-facing speakers? Hey, let's talk about Snapdragon. Hey, y'all seen that Snapdragon? Snapdragon. Sorry. Now I've just lost everything. Can you guys tell me why I need to be excited about the Snapdragon 800? Because Stephen Schenk phrases it beautifully in the first opening line of this. LG LS 980 Android creates a Snapdragon 800 mystery, where he says Qualcomm Snapdragon 800. If mention of that chip doesn't send a little shiver down your spine, you haven't been paying close enough attention to this year's hot new SoC launches.
Correct.
True enough, Stephen. I was there at CES, but I just, it takes a lot to get me excited about chips.
I'll give you two things to be excited about. First one, so the 600 is already a super fast processor.
Right.
And
you see the 600 in the HTC One and the Galaxy
as the
S4.
S4. That is correct. The 800 is even faster. But what the 800 will have and the 600 doesn't have is the super fast charging.
What?
Wait, no, the Snapdragon 600 does have that.
It does not have that.
Wait a minute.
I read the white paper on it.
No, you have not.
Wait a second, guys. I wasn't aware, and maybe I'm exposing a bit of ignorance on my part, but I wasn't aware that CPUs or system on chips had anything to do with the fast charging of the battery.
Yes.
Well, it's called
your
Quick Charge
processor?
2.0.
Yeah, your CPU it controls a lot of things. Wireless technology, for instance, if you don't have support, you can't have LTE, and things like that.
Yeah, that's clear. But I didn't know that. I thought the battery stuff was completely isolated. I thought it had its own dedicated kind of sub-processor or something.
And who knew there was a Snapdragon 200? Huh.
Yeah. Well, we knew this, didn't we? Oh, no. Maybe I didn't. I'm going to pretend like I knew it.
I totally knew that.
I knew it. Go back and learn something. So there is a dispute as to whether this 800 supports or the 600 supports fast charging.
There's no dispute. So no. Qualcomm Quick Charge 1.0 is integrated inside the Snapdragon 600, and Qualcomm Quick Charge 2.0 is integrated in the Snapdragon 800. The 1.0 is basically the standard, which it takes 4 hours for me to charge the one.
Okay.
But the 800 will have 2.0, which will probably charge in under 1 hour.
Wow. Well,
yeah,
that's
okay.
interesting.
I knew I'd read Quick Charge. Come on now. You can't expect me to memorize numbers. Come on.
Oh, what difference? Virgin
Say
Galaxy
you were right,
S2,
Tony.
Galaxy S5. What
Yeah,
is it different?
I skimmed. I get some credit, right? I skimmed.
Okay, so We have a big version leap in quick charging there. That is cool. That's probably a whole different conversation in itself. But also, one of the things that I think that I was expecting in this leap from 600 to 800 was that maybe, I think if you don't pay a lot of attention to chips, you could very easily associate 800 with octa-core, and that is not the case at all. The Snapdragon 800 is still a quad-core chip set, and but it can run at a max of, 2.3 gigahertz? Is that right?
That's not necessarily the key point and takeaway here. While we cannot dismiss that, definitely yes, it will be a super fast processor at 2 point something, 2.2.
Okay, well, what is the key takeaway then?
It has also an updated GPU. It will have the Adreno 330 GPU versus the Adreno 320 GPU.
Okay.
Yeah.
So better camera performance as well.
Yeah.
I see.
If I recall well, from the top of my head, up to 51 megapixels.
55.
55. Yeah, I stand correct. So Nokia.
Yeah, I have the white paper up now.
Where's the EOS?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And then, so this
55.
This particular rumor is associated with a device that Sprint servers describe. It's an LG-made device called the LS980, which I think a lot of people have been speculating to be the follow-up to the Optimus G sequel. But LG has already started, as Stephen points out, using 980 in reference to the Optimus G Pro, because the AT&T version is the E980. So this device that we're talking about might, in fact, be the Sprint version of the Optimus G Pro. And if that's shipped with a Snapdragon 800, I think we can all agree that would be very interesting, if maybe a little bit of a niche coup for Sprint.
I don't think it's going to happen because Sprint doesn't want to cannibalize its own products. And on the other hand, I think that I'll read that, Taylor, just in a second. I forgot what I was about to say. Again, I hate multitasking in real life.
Me too.
Yeah, so, that's just for reference.
Yeah, I think that the LS and the E categories are two different categories. So while the Optimus G Pro might be the E980, the LS980 will be a follow-up to the LS970, which is the Optimus G. And in this case, the LS980 will be the G2.
That could be. It definitely wouldn't be the first time we'd seen manufacturers alter model numbers based on carrier wishes. Obviously, we see just look at the Galaxy S4 launch in the U.S., and they all have different model numbers. It's like SPH L720 or SGHI something for, what's it called? For AT&T. But we'll see. This is not going to be something where we're waiting forever on. Obviously, the 800 is a big deal. It was just nice to get a refresher on why it is a big deal.
Before we jump into the next topic, because it is related somewhat, and we're still in Android, don't you guys find it weird that Google I.O. happens next week and we have no leaks, we have no rumors, we have no implications or hints of what might happen, aside from the usual blah, blah, blah?
I'll be honest with you, I keep forgetting I.O. is coming up because we're not getting any kind of crazy leaks out of it. So
I mean, the Nexus 7 is up for a refresh.
And Nexus 7, like the 7-inch tablet or something to the effect like a successor to the Nexus 7. We won't see a new phone because the Nexus 4 wasn't released until November.
Yeah.
No upgrades on the Nexus 10 unless they add new storage capacities. Same thing with the 4. But what I'm really looking forward to, and most people probably aren't, they've probably already forgotten about it, but the Nexus Q.
Nah.
Yeah.
Everybody you always get that, and if I ever say anything about the Nexus Q on Twitter, everybody gives me hell over it. They're like, "Why would you even still use that thing? You're the only person ever that's ever done anything with it."
Yeah.
No, but
I don't know if you saw.
Well,
I don't know if you saw my video on the IR blasters on the HTC One and the Galaxy S4. I have my Nexus Q hooked up to my television running CyanogenMod 10.1.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's cool from a geek perspective, and it's fun to use a keyboard with that and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, TV integration with my home entertainment, integrating my mobile lifestyle with my home entertainment systems has never blown my skirt up. I've never gotten excited about that. Nothing I've seen from Samsung or HTC has made me get excited about it. The only thing that I like is my Apple TV hooked up to my TV because that lets me stream.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, Apple did that without sounding like a fanboy. Apple did that for years now, and it's basically the same concept. It does run iOS, not Android, but then again, it has complete integration with your TV, computers, tablets, phones.
And
everything.
Aside from the fact that the Nexus Q, I think the Nexus Q looks awesome, and it's just like black sphere hanging out. Like, why? I don't understand what the value proposition is for me. If I already use Apple TV, I get why it's exciting down the road. Why it will be exciting for regular consumers, especially as Android keeps accelerating in its market share. Consumption. But go ahead.
Because I'm part of the Google ecosystem. I buy my movies from Google Play.
Yes.
So I've always wanted something to stream my Play movies to my television, and that was the answer. And luckily, I didn't have to pay anything for it. So
for Android fans, that Q might be what the Apple TV is for Apple fans.
Right. And by the way, I will say that since I don't use an iOS device with regularity, there's a big gap in my Apple TV usefulness. But
exactly.
No, the Q. Yeah, I would get a Q. I'm not saying it's a bad product. All I'm saying is I think you should be excited for the new one or whatever.
No, the original one was a flop. That's why Google never sold it.
Right.
I mean, it was overpriced and it didn't do much of anything. So out of the box, it was kind of a waste, but. Yeah. There's so much potential for Google to do something awesome with it.
So that's what you're excited about for I/O.
Yeah,
you're excited to see something out of that. I'm excited for the Nexus 7, and maybe we'll get a glimpse of 4.3, or do we think that's too early?
I think that we will have some sort of a minor Android update, which will not be Jelly Bean. It will be probably an in-between thing with the new rumors, even though logic dictates that this is the time for Jelly Bean. But
or Key Lime Pie, or...
Key Lime Pie, KLP.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, Jelly Bean's been around for a year now, so...
Yeah.
Let's just quickly touch on...
Wait, quick.
I just want to...
What?
Go, Taylor, go.
See, this is why we're here for 90 minutes. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I might have an aneurysm if they're giving out glass at I/O, because I've heard rumors.
No way. Do you think they'll
I've heard
give
rumors.
out glass?
I mean, last year they sold pre-orders to Explorers for $1,500. But now they're talking about a price point that's anywhere from $200 to $600, and they've given out crazier stuff than that. I mean, last year, I know everybody that was there walked out with a Nexus 4, not a Nexus 4, a Galaxy Nexus, a Nexus 7, a Nexus Q, and a Chromebook.
All that together?
All of that together. That was what everyone at I/O got last year. All the attendees that went to all the events.
The moment I'll see Michael Fisher on camera with not his Gunner optics, but with a Google Glass, I'll stop watching his videos.
Well, get ready to stop watching, Tony, because I'm trying to find one of those glass pieces real quick.
Oh, you'll lose a viewer.
I need to get in touch with that guy. I forgot to tell him that I need to get...
Yes, you do. You totally
We'll talk about this later today.
Yeah.
This is not what I wanted to say. Quick trivia. If you... Google Nexus 7 is the name of the 7-inch tablet. It is due for a refresh. Quick trivia. If you are Google, what's the name of the tablet? Google Nexus 7 2?
Google Nexus 7.1.
No.
I'm kidding.
And have a slightly incremental screen size bump.
Now, you know what they're going to do?
That's one of the worst things you could ever do, is name a device after its screen size. Because how do you follow it up? And two, you can't just bump the screen size every time. So
I don't think that's going to be a problem this year. I think that they're going to react to the changing landscape, and they're going to react to the pressure of phablets pushing screen sizes up. And they're going to release a competitor to the Note 8, and it's going to be the Nexus 8. I really do think it's going to be a bigger screen device.
I was about to say something like that. Now, with the Nexus 7 being an ASUS device and the Nexus 7 3G being also a second Nexus 7, there's two Nexus 7s done by ASUS. What if now Google plays with Samsung for a second Nexus tablet in addition to the Nexus 10.1 and come out with a Nexus 8.0 since the Note 8.0 is there and the technology is there?
If there were a Nexus 8 that was in the form of the Note 8.0, except without that stupid physical home button and without the hyperglaze, and I'd miss the S Pen, but I would totally buy it. Yeah, the camera
hump on a tablet, just why? I'm going to put in one thing for my wish list, and I know it's outlandish, it's crazy, it's probably not ever going to happen again, or not. I won't say ever, but not this year, and not at this I/O. I want another HTC Nexus.
Oh,
I do. I told Jeff that. In our little meeting at CES, he said, what do you want? I said, if there's one thing that would just make my life complete right now, another HTC Nexus. A refresh of the Nexus 1 with modern specifications and a little bigger.
Well, Taylor, you have your first.
Yeah, the first is as close as you can get.
That is not the Nexus One.
Let's talk about a different manufacturer. Let's talk about a manufacturer we haven't given a lot of love recently. I want to talk about Motorola very briefly. Stephen wrote an excellent piece called Motorola's X Phone is still just a rumor, and I'm already let down, which is just, wah, wah. But, man, reading this piece, I just I can't disagree with him. Stephen Shank really sets the tone here. He sets the scene. He says, this is the bed that Motorola made. Here are these rumors that came out of this captivating X Phone. And we're now seeing leaked images that seem to indicate that Motorola, having strayed into this area where with the Razr and the Razr Max, where they were like, wow, we finally found our design language, like this sharp, this Kevlar, these angles, that's mean. It's like a big, nasty truck, and we love that about it.
Now throw it away.
And now it's like, okay, we're done with that. And part of the explanation for that might be that it might be Google's influence finally starting to take hold after the acquisition, which, as we all know, takes forever for that kind of stuff to happen. But I'm looking at this kind of rounded object on this leak that, to cover CYA may or may not be legit. It looks a lot like a Nexus 4 that somebody took some like a belt sander to the corners and made them a little bit wider radius.
Yeah, that device has no volume rocker.
Is that true?
Yes. There was a video that was that leaked several months ago. I don't remember exactly when. But it was a video, maybe last month,
I know, I covered it, yeah.
Yeah, the guy was... Yeah, there were two things that were really, really strange about this phone. One, there was no volume rocker. The guy held it and twisted it around in front of the camera and everything. No volume rocker. And the rumor before that video came out was that it would have a touch panel volume slider.
Yeah, we've seen that before on devices, on an HTC smart device, I think, back in the day.
That's good. So when you hold your phone, you will just play with the volume without intending it to.
No,
I do that on Samsung devices anyway because their volume rockers are so sensitive.
And this device that I can't remember the name of, it was like a Motorola Q competitor. Maybe it was the Dash. And instead of a jog dial on the side, it had a touch-sensitive strip on the side. But I don't remember what device it was. Maybe somebody out there, a commenter, can let us know. But anyway, go ahead.
And there was one more thing, and I can't remember for the life of me. Oh yeah, the screen.
The screen, yeah, the reflections.
I think it was a reflection of a window in front of the guy or behind him, depending on how you perceive that.
What happened?
But there were two lines that went down the middle of the display, and he was tilting it at different angles, which made me think that there's no way it was a reflection. But I don't know. There were two lines that went down through the display that made it look like it was raised in the middle. It was very strange.
Or on the sides.
Or on the sides. It was very strange. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been a reflection, but I don't know. I feel like a conspiracy theorist trying to depict like one of those, like the freaking Sasquatch video from whatever. Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that at least some of us can agree on is that we're glad to see that Circles widget. If nothing else, I'll be excited to see this based on the Circles widget alone. But I don't know. I don't think...
Could we?
What?
Could we see that at I.O.?
It's possible. I keep trying to kind of dig with our PR people at various, whether it's Motorola, whether it's Verizon, whether it doesn't really matter. But I'm just like, so what about that? And we'll kind of get these answers. It's like, can't tell you about that for another few weeks or something like that. And I'm like, okay, all right. At least we know when we can expect something interesting.
According to the latest rumors, the X Phone itself has been postponed.
Yeah, there's a
to
delay, right?
late autumn, which gave birth again to new speculation that this might be the new Nexus phone and blah blah blah.
Right. So
either way, I need to text my BFF, Michael.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Actually, that's who I was talking to.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to Windows Phone. We spent a lot of time in Android. Unless you gentlemen have some unfinished business in Android that we need to address real quick.
Always.
Android, the land of unfinished business.
We're already at 52 minutes. And
Yeah,
but we have no iOS today, so
that is very true because there's nothing worth talking about on iOS.
Even though I'll just drop a sentence when the time comes.
Oh, all right. Nokia Lumia 928. Can we agree, gentlemen? The worst kept secret in history. This is a
Or
device.
the best controlled leak.
Yeah.
Everything's controlled leaks now. Well, not everything, but most.
If this 928 was a controlled leak, it's a stroke of genius because, like, not only are there leaks on the internet, which we expect to see, there's landing pages and stuff, but there's now
ads.
There's a print ad, and this isn't even the most impressive bit, but there's a print ad in Vanity Fair magazine that is a 2-page spread. It says right Nokia Lumia 928. It's got the Verizon branding right over the screen, but also a freaking billboard alongside the highway that was
Somebody's
up for
not
what?
trying.
It was up for one day and then it was taken down. Is that right? It's something.
Somebody's
like
not trying to keep a secret.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably the point. I don't think that this phone will warrant any events or anything more than just a press release from Nokia and Verizon.
Agreed. I don't think unless we see this at the London event, which
No chance.
You don't think we'll see it just as I'm not saying the London event would be for this device specifically, but I feel like this is one of those things they would throw in at the end after revealing something really impressive.
Even though,
and one more
Michael,
thing.
you might be right because the official renders which Nokia themselves published on the landing page are missing the Verizon branding.
Are they really?
Yes, they are.
Look at that. I see that. There's no Verizon branding on the landing page, but there is one on the Vanity Fair ad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Photoshopping.
Yeah.
What are they doing here?
At its best.
Now that looks interesting. Now the side of this device definitely looks like it's reflecting more light than I would expect. Actually,
The whole physics of that, or not physics, but like the whole layout to that, just the perspective is off.
yeah, it does. I'm just looking. This doesn't make any sense. Like the lower edge of this device appears to disappear under that guy's thumb.
It's got a very chamfered edge there, like I
Right,
guess.
but the top surface doesn't. Like the left side does, and the right
Guys,
side
what are
doesn't.
you looking at?
Sorry, we're looking at the title
landing
image on the landing page post.
Oh, I was looking at
Like
the
you
other
can
post.
see the bottom on the bottom of that device. You can see the whole edge all the way up to his thumb, and on the top, all you see is the profile of the edge.
Yeah, what is going on with this image?
Somebody got carried away in Photoshop and
Apparently.
Well, check out this post, which has renders.
So there's renders in addition, and this is on. Okay, so this is the post that Tony was pointing to me right before we started broadcasting, which is called, listeners, Nokia Lumia 928 versus Apple iPhone 5 versus Samsung Galaxy S3 video quality comparison. And this includes in its title image a render of this mystery device.
Yeah, so you can see that edge, but the perspective of this landing page is just off.
Yeah, it definitely
It's
is.
way off.
Now, Tony, tell us a little bit about this comparison, this video quality comparison. I'll drop the link in the rundown.
Well, this is basically video a la Nokia. Nokia used to, and from what I see, continues to do comparison videos. And in this particular video, they are pushing the low light performance and optical image stabilization on the 928, which has the same sensor, the 8.7 megapixel sensor, as on the Lumia 920, as expected. And they're putting it against the low light sensitivity of the iPhone 5 and the Galaxy S3. Not 4. Maybe they couldn't get a device. Anyways,
Did they use an SLR this time?
I haven't checked. I haven't checked, even though, yes, that was me last year. But I'm not going to say anything because
No, you can
I
definitely tell
usually-
this is with a phone.
I usually don't judge camera quality based on any comparisons, OEM comparisons or other site comparisons. I judge camera quality when I do the comparisons in my controlled environment where my eyes can see what I have captured.
Do you
I
know
agree.
camera comparisons, when we do them, it sends me on the trip of a lifetime between like highs and lows, because the actual work of capturing the images is some of my favorite work I do at Pocketnow. I just basically walk around town, find various lighting conditions, and take photos with like 5 different phones. That's fun. Then you come back home, or you come back to the office, and you're like 6 hours later, you've been in front of the computer for more than half a day, and your eyes are bloodshot, and you're like maneuvering photos around, and
Embedding,
like,
captioning.
oh my god, it's the worst ever.
The worst experience I've had at Pocketnow was the one comparison before and after the update.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I know I put probably 15 or 16 hours into that
And then like
because the phone like updated and wiped itself, and I lost everything I'd done.
yeah, and then you post the results of all your hard work, and 5 minutes later the first comment is gay.
Yeah.
Let's move on from the Lumia 928. I think we're gonna see it, and it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be exciting. But I don't want to get off of Nokia too quickly because we have to talk about this shareholder kind of venting session that apparently occurred. This was posted May 7th. Have you guys read this? This was posted yesterday at 5 p.m.
I read just the headlines.
Okay.
I finished work at 3 a.m. I didn't read anything.
No, I feel you. So let me tell you what happened. Apparently, there was a recent Nokia shareholders meeting where investors voiced their frustrations with the choices the company has made, and these shareholders apparently urged CEO Stephen Elop to take steps to bring its success back on track. One of these people says, after taking time to explain that he truly believed Elop to be a nice guy, one of these shareholders continued, "Are you aware that results are what matter? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Please switch to another road."
Jesus.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, I read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but there was an article about Nokia, and someone claimed that Stephen was or Mr. Elop, I guess I should say,
yes,
was a Trojan horse from Microsoft.
Oh, they keep saying that since February 2011.
Yeah.
So
I think Nokia has made all the right decisions and chose all the right paths they could have chosen, except for one.
Android.
Android. That is correct.
Android.
I'm not saying that Windows Phone was a bad choice to regret. I'm saying that they might have maybe thought of the future and thought numbers and have a separate lineup for Windows phones and a separate lineup for Android. But that aside, the hardware is top-notch as usual. They're pioneering cameras and everything which is imaging related. So it all comes down to the road and switching roads. Currently, the road is Windows Phone, and switching roads would probably mean, from what I interpret from that person's thoughts, switching to Android, which is never going to happen.
No, totally meant Yola or Yala.
Well, that would be interesting if Nokia were to get all those people back that left in disgust, or not disgust. I shouldn't say that. We've talked to them, and that wasn't the case. But here's the thing: I think it would have been a very, very bad move for Nokia to try and do both of these. Because look at what HTC basically did that. Right, HTC's in a situation where they had a really good Android reputation, which Nokia didn't have, but that's the one thing that's different. And HTC decided, well, we're going to make a line of premium Windows phones, and we're going to make a line of premium Android phones. And then what happened? The Windows phones didn't do terribly well because Windows Phone is not doing terribly well. It's improving, but it's not doing terribly well overall. And then HTC basically shut up completely about the 8X. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any HTC-sourced advertisements about that. It's Microsoft pushing those phones.
And I said that a couple weeks ago, and you were like, no, they didn't.
Really?
Yeah. I said they pushed everything they had. They put everything they had into the 8X, and then a few months later, they're like, bailed.
All right. So if that's the case, then I owe you an apology. Yeah, no, you're right. But the point is that if they did that, what if Nokia did that? What if Nokia had another crutch to lean on in the form of Android? Do you think they would have transformed Windows Phone to the extent that they have? Because I think they're doing a lot of good for the Windows Phone platform.
They have made Windows Phone.
I'm sorry, I should have said Tony.
Oh.
Because Tony was trying to talk just then, and I kept.
I didn't hear him.
Rolling.
No, I just wanted to say one thing. We have a saying around here, which, if I translate, sounds something like this: rather than being the last person in a metro, I prefer being the first person in a small village. And this is probably what Nokia thought.
Talking about kind of like the big fish in a small pond thing?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do believe that if they would have chosen both paths at the same time, they could have pulled it off. And I hate being an analyst, but I think that by this time, so 2 years later, I think that they would be heavily breathing down Samsung's neck.
If I were Stephen Elop, I would have been absolutely irate after being the selected partner for Windows Phone and releasing their Windows Phone device, and then the next phone that comes along, the 8X, being the signature Windows Phone device or Windows Phone 8.
I think we've definitely covered that before. We all agree that that's such a.
But at that point, Nokia or Nokia should have said, "Hey, we've got to explore options. We need to explore options." That would have been the call or the conversation I would have had if I were in his shoes at that very moment.
Well, who's to say they didn't? I mean, I'm sure they probably did that very secretly, and they probably told Microsoft as much. Like, listen, you guys are being. Oh, shit.
Double beeps. People, this was double beeps.
Right. Yeah.
Are you editing now?
Yes, I'm going to be editing now. All right. So I'll say it anyway. So, like,
and I think you should leave this part, but with the beeps.
That's what I'm doing. So yeah. I mean, they're like, okay, well, Microsoft, you're being dicks to us. Why don't we just go ahead and we're exploring our options? Now we're not going to publicize the fact that we're exploring options, and I don't think they did. Right? Am I forgetting something that? Was there any kind of leak or what?
No leaks, but I know that they debunked all the Android rumors. So
yeah,
I think that Nokia doesn't really care if the HTC Windows Phone 8X is or is not the signature phone, because I don't have the exact numbers, but the vast majority of Windows Phone sales go to Nokia. So I wouldn't mind being called an intern and have twice as much or 3 times as much salary as the editor-in-chief.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I can understand the shareholders' position here. I mean, the company has been doing very well for the Windows Phone ecosystem. I think we owe a lot to Nokia, but I also think that if I were an investor in the company, I too would be very frustrated at this point. But
those shareholders had at one point a word to say back in 2011 when that strategic alliance was signed?
I mean, but I don't think anybody could predict what the landscape was going to be like back then. I think there was a lot more hope for Windows Phone back then,
definitely.
Being the big upset. It's like, oh, here they come.
Developers.
Right, exactly.
Now, why take it out on Steve Nela? Because of a decision which has been, I believe, collectively made.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of this shareholder mentality, right? It's like, well, we were with you back then, but now we're not, and you're the one that's going to hang for it.
Pretty much. I do have a question. So if if Nokia was to bail on Windows Phone altogether, would the platform just die?
Wow. No, it wouldn't, but it wouldn't do nearly as well. That's a really solid question. So I just made this point in the WTFs after the buzz. Where I was like, listen, one of the most significant things that's happened to the Ativa S since we first reviewed it was that Nokia released its Here suite for the entire Windows Phone lineup. That's Here Navigation, that's Here Drive Beta, and it's Here Transit. And that has like single-handedly improved the worth of the entire Windows Phone line. I would say, no exaggeration, like 15 to 20% for a lot of people, myself included. So Nokia is a massively significant force to Windows Phone.
Oh yeah, I don't think Microsoft would let Windows Phone die. Just saying.
Microsoft definitely wouldn't. But, Tony, what was your answer to that question?
It worries me a lot that after 2.5 years, Windows Phone is still below 5%. They're stagnating. According to the latest numbers, they've seen an increase of 0.1%. I mean, and that's not Nokia's fault. That's not HTC's fault. That's not Samsung's fault. And you know what? That's not even Microsoft's fault. I think that people who at that point said that it is too late for Microsoft to join this game, they might have been right, even though back then, yes, I defended Windows Phone and Microsoft with my last breath.
Oh, I kind of disagree with you, Tony. I blame Microsoft wholly for anything they've done here. And that's not necessarily their own fault. It was just a very bad decision. The opening marketing, I've said it before, was just the worst possible thing they could have done. Save you from yourself or save you from your phone. People didn't want it at the time. People still don't really want it. This is kind of unrelated, but think of Paul Miller's leaving the internet for a year. He thought the internet was a problem, but he found that it wasn't. And I don't think that, addiction, quote unquote, to a smartphone is a problem necessarily. With the phone, it's more of ourselves. And I don't think an operating system that promises to be boring, basically, appeals to anyone. So I kind of blame Microsoft
for that initial positioning that set them up for failure. I get that point. I get both points. I actually like that ad campaign, but I understand the objection to it. There is something that kind of springs to mind here, and I just wrote a note to myself that maybe I will write an editorial on this, but we haven't heard a lot from the stock Android camp since the Nexus 4 dropped, basically, and the Jelly Bean 4.2 was a big deal and whatever. But we haven't really heard a lot out of stock Android. Obviously, iOS has been, kind of stagnant, and we're waiting for a big upset there. But we really haven't heard much out of what's new about Windows Phone, because there isn't. Like, Windows Phone 8 has kind of, come out, and here are the features we announced a long time ago, and we're kind of holding steady with them. And the ecosystem has been the big news, right? The app titles have been added. Well, yeah. but I've got a follow-on question, Tony. My question is, does anybody think that, and you guys are going to call me an idiot, does anybody think that the salvation to Windows Phone might lie in finally allowing manufacturers to skin it?
No.
Well,
maybe
because look at the response to the One. Look at the response to Sense 5, which has been quite positive, despite the fact that people seem to hate Blink Feed for no reason.
Maybe within limitation. I say yes, but I mean like within limitation.
I agree.
I always wanted a wallpaper. Yeah, sure, but no. I think if Microsoft would allow that, that will be against their entire principle, the core idea which was at the basis of Metro UI and Windows Phone itself.
Which is to unify with a common design language across everything.
I mean, they offer you the colors, and that's really that's it. What other things would they allow you to do while you would still keep the general design guidelines, which they push out to developers so hard?
I don't know. That's a tough question, but the Metro UI is not as well received in the PC world, so. To that end, they're probably Windows Blue is supposedly going to come and change some things, but I don't know. I think the unified experience that they wanted across those three different platforms, mobile, and then the tablet, like smartphones, tablets, and PCs. I think that's kind of a pipe dream for them right now, because Metro doesn't translate too well to a desktop experience.
Yeah.
So,
well, it does.
So maybe it's time.
If you have a touchscreen on it, it does. But
yeah, if you have a touchscreen, but if you don't,
right. But I don't think that'll be a problem. I think that problem will evaporate as everything becomes touchscreen driven.
Maybe. But I talked to yeah. Well, I talked to 3 or 4 people at the coffee shop that I go to all the time, and 3 of them have just completely gotten rid of Windows 8. They went back to Windows 7. Like, they purchased a separate license to go back to Windows 7 because they hated Windows 8 so much.
3 of them did?
3 out of the 4. And the 4th one just said he just deals with it.
Yeah.
He said he hates it and he deals with it. So none of them actually like Windows 8.
I'm going to say something bold here. I'm sorry, who did I interrupt?
That was me, but say something bold, Tony. We haven't heard from you in a second.
I think that it is my perception, again, that Microsoft doesn't really care that much anymore about Windows Phone. When it was new and fresh, all we could see was Steve Ballmer all the time, everywhere. 2011 MWC, he was there. 2012 MWC, he talked about all the 500 features coming to Noto or Mango or whatever it was. This year, they were not there. We're not seeing him being that enthusiastic about Windows Phone. Remember those developers. No, Steve Ballmer is nowhere to be seen, and Stephen Elop is, believe it or not, in my perception, the image of Windows Phone now.
Oh, yeah. No, I get that. Sure. And that takes a little bit of pressure off Microsoft, because they can. Then that was part of the driving force, I think, behind the partnership with Nokia in the first place. Is because Nokia now, has to shoulder some of the burden of pushing Windows Phone. I don't know. I wonder if they actually care less, or I wonder if we're just in this lull between revisions that is natural and that happens to everything, like I said about stock Android a second ago. I don't know. I want to touch on this next Surface model. I changed the rundown a little bit if you guys want to refresh. Because while we're talking about the modern UI, while we're talking about Windows 8 versus Windows 7, we're hearing rumors that the next Surface model could be a smaller, cheaper variant, but also may not arrive until 2014, which when I read that headline, my heart just kind of sank, because I think even though sales might be a little bit better than we were expecting a couple months ago, I still don't think they're very good. Am I wrong on that, guys?
No.
No, they're terrible.
Yeah, they're actually performing very poorly.
Yeah.
From what I read last, they were well below expectations.
Right. So, and I think that new Surface hardware is exciting because the hardware is the best part of the Surface story. I think. I love that hardware. But Windows 8 so desperately needs a revamp.
You're talking about the RT version.
And RT, right. That's another thing, right? So I haven't gotten any further in understanding or liking my NVX2 than I was the last time we talked about it a month ago. And that is not because of the hardware. It's because of Windows 8. And, this is when the commenters will arise to say I don't know what I'm doing and stuff like that. And you know what? You are right. I do not know what I'm doing inside Windows 8, and I may never in its current incarnation, and not for lack of trying. It's just so frustrating to have an OS that looks so pretty in the modern UI, but which functions so poorly.
As you describe it, it's exactly what I felt with the first iteration of Windows Phone 7.0.
Ah, sure, and I get that. I mean, 7.0 was lacking so many features, and yeah, I don't think I liked it.
Who needs copy paste?
Right. But and now I want something. I want Windows Phone 8 to go the route of Windows Phone. I want Windows 8 to go the route of Windows Phone 8. Where Windows Phone 8, I have my objections to it, but I find it to be a very, very useful, fun, responsive, stable, etc., OS. And Windows 8 has to match that, and it's harder to do that on the desktop, but it just has to.
Yeah. The only thing keeping me from actually using a Windows 8 or Windows Phone 8 device, wow, I hate that.
Yeah, I know.
I hate it so much. But the only thing keeping me from using Windows Phone now is Google services. Windows
right,
and Google don't get along well.
Yeah.
The apps are slowly coming along, and
they definitely are.
That's one of the things that was keeping me away. And the hardware is compelling, which is something I can't say for every Android manufacturer.
Right.
But yeah, I need Google services, and I think for Microsoft to figure out that not everyone wants to use SkyDrive and Hotmail or Live or whatever they killed Hotmail or not Hotmail. What did they kill? They killed something.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to use their services or their ecosystem because they don't necessarily compare or translate that well for basic consumers. They definitely work well for enterprise, but for basic consumers, there are better, easier services.
Yeah, but I think that's not the problem with the new users. It's a problem for switching. I understand that Windows Phone is not stealing users from Android or iOS at the extent they would have expected or they hoped they would.
Right.
What is interesting in my mind is that they're not even getting new customers who are getting their smartphones for the first time.
Right.
Well, but the point I'm trying to make is that I can go on an iPhone and I have all of my Google services, and they're almost as good as they are on an Android phone. You go to Windows Phone, and that's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not only it's you can take that qualifier right out of there. It's not at all the case.
Yeah, that's what I was defending. I was saying that yes, you are tied in with an ecosystem or an offering that you're not prone to switch. But if you would be a first-time smartphone user and you wouldn't be tied in Gmail and all the Google ecosystem and offerings, then you would be probably more tempted to go, okay, let's go Live, let's go SkyDrive. But no.
Yeah,
people don't do that.
But I don't even know if that's the case. Like, I say that to throw a bone to Microsoft and stuff, but I know at least over here in the circles I travel in, and there are many and varied, Microsoft doesn't have any cool power whatsoever. There's nobody saying that they want to use Outlook.com. There's nobody excited about IE10, no matter how good the commercials say it is, no matter how awesome the music on those commercials is. It's like Microsoft is not cool, by and large. And Google is, I think, cooler. I think people are more afraid of it, certainly. But it also has unleashed a whole lot of products on the public that work very well, especially in a mobile sense. So I would say that, Taylor, I agree with you, and I would put it, my ideal would be a Microsoft Windows Phone that interfaces deeply with Google's ecosystem. That would be my ideal thing. Because just because you use Google services doesn't mean that you necessarily really enjoy using
Android.
The front end, Android, right? Yeah. Like, what if I could access all that through a UI that I prefer, which is Windows Phone?
Yeah. And despite what the television show says, the ad spots in the television show, nobody says Bing it.
Nobody says
Just
Bing it.
Bing it. Just Bing it. Nobody says that.
Whenever I
Oh
try
my
and
God,
say
when I
that
hear that,
unironically in a situation, people are just like, "What? LOL."
nobody
Yeah.
says Bing it. And I literally cannot stand Bing.
Come on, Taylor.
I can't
you know
do
what?
it.
You know why? Because you've been scroogled all your life. That's why.
No, I use Let Me Google That for you for everything, for
I
even
know.
my personal uses.
Let me.
I have an announcement.
Oh, what's your
Yeah.
announcement?
Not related at all. So it's
hooray.
Android related. HTC first. Awesome device. Taylor reviewed it. 8 out of 10. Good score. It was $99.99 on AT&T. Now it is $0.99.
You've got to be kidding me. It's 99
Guys,
cents now.
go grab it, kill Facebook Home, and use stock vanilla Android for 99
it is a great
cents.
phone. Someone
contract
tweeted me
phone.
yesterday. I think it was from Droid Dog. I can't remember who it was. Yeah, Brooks Barnard. He said I have to send my first back tomorrow, and I'm sad. And that's how I was. Like, I didn't want to send it back. It was actually a really nice phone.
It'll grow
But-
on
You
you.
can have one
yeah.
for $4.99 on a 2-year contract.
Yeah, my
Right, it was
only
2-year
complaint with that phone was its size.
Yeah.
My Hulk hands were just too big for it.
So this is an interesting thing. Taylor, you said that somebody tweeted at you from Droid Dog and you don't remember who it was. I'm putting out a call to
Brooks
any
Barnard.
commenter who... Oh, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, but initially you didn't know who it was. I'm putting out a
Okay.
call to any commenter who can help. There's a guy out there who runs a website that's called like smartphonereview.com or something similarly sounding. It's very straightforward in the title. And he's based in New York State. He's a bald guy, maybe about all of our ages. And we see him at a lot of events, and he was our buddy for a while. But damned if I can't find his website. And he actually held a place in us in line at one of these big Samsung events recently, and
Good guy.
I've been wanting to thank him forever, but I don't know what site he's at, and I've even forgotten his name because I'm horrible with names. Oh, yes, footnote 2. If I ever meet you in person, I will shake your hand, you will tell me your name. By the time our handshake is done, I will have forgotten your name. I'm just I'm so dumb about that. My brain just doesn't hold on to names.
I'm too ADD when I meet people, and I'm like, yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
What was
me
your
too.
name again?
Exactly. Yeah, no, it takes like 4 or 5 times. So anyway, if
I get too
anybody can help
excited.
us find this really nice guy, awesome dude who runs this site, that would be great. Leave a comment.
Should post on Craigslist.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, like the misconnections.
Yeah.
You held our place in line, and we were friends. Then you disappeared. What happened?
One for every city.
Right. Closing out Windows Phone, the YouTube app after like 2 years has finally seen a major update. I
I
haven't.
mean, you didn't like using the browser?
Yeah, like the old app. If you don't use Windows Phone, the old app was basically a link to the mobile YouTube, like
The shortcut aggregator.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh my God. So
I hated when BlackBerry did that. Like you download the app from
yeah,
BlackBerry
you spend all
World.
this time downloading the app, and then it's like,
Like,
oh,
yes,
this is just a
finally I have it, and you click it, and it takes you to the browser.
m.youtube.com in the browser. Yeah. Ridiculous.
So awful.
So
I had a Twitter
apparently
client
the new
that I
one
downloaded.
is nice. Yeah,
I had a-
that did that same thing.
Yeah, I'm like, it's a Twitter client. Like, of all things, you should at least do something, like encapsulate it within the app, not a Twitter client that just takes you to mobile Twitter. Like,
So that's what happened with YouTube, and it's funny that you mentioned BlackBerry because BlackBerry is our last category before listener mail. The BlackBerry R10, I think everyone can agree, this is the prettiest device they've ever seen. Has gone up in photos against the Q10.
wow.
Oh wow, this thing. Ugh. So the R10 looks to be a budget device running BlackBerry 10.
Looks exactly like the iPhone 1, the first original iPhone,
yeah,
with that
yeah,
Yeah,
with
it
shiny
does.
plastic.
Ugh.
Man, that is ugly. Even
iPhone
the
3G.
volume buttons.
Yeah. Even the volume buttons. Then they've got their little mute button in the middle there, and
I mean, just different. They didn't copy anything.
right. No, it doesn't look good. I feel like though that's missing the point or whatever. The R10 is meant to be a budget device, and but it looks like BlackBerry's trying to replicate their old approach. Which is to kick out like a bunch of curve variants for different markets. And what do we think, guys? I think the BlackBerry question is still so up in the air. I would like to hear whether you guys think that they have a chance of surviving long enough to make this staggered approach possible.
One thing I suggested before these two devices came out, the Q10 and Z10, I said BlackBerry should just trash everything they've done in the past and just start new. So bring the new operating system, but bring truly new hardware, not the same old stuff. That's what we're seeing. The same old stuff. The Q10 is a device that was rumored back in 2000 freaking 4 as the Magnum. I remember reading forums. It was Crackberry forums. I would read them all the time. So this is like a Bold, but it wasn't the Bold with the touchscreen because this thing has no buttons, and that was what that device back then was. It had no physical navigation.
BlackBerry
buttons.
10 wasn't rumored back then.
No.
I mean, it's the software's the story on this thing, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They should have come forward with new hardware, not the same old. Granted, that aside, I'm actually wanting a Q10. So,
well, the entire Pocketnow team would like a Q10. As I've mentioned, as I've said in the comments to a couple people, I know you guys want us listeners. You want us to review the Q10. I definitely want to review it. You know, we've never covered BlackBerry before. The Z10 was the first BlackBerry I think we ever covered, besides the Storm. Maybe was it the Storm, Tony?
I think, on AT&T. Adam Lane, he was reviewing
my
it.
friend still has a Storm.
We're not.
I
we're
weep
not.
for her.
We don't.
at night.
We don't have a. We don't have a long history of covering BlackBerry, so they don't really pay much attention to us. I have to bang down their door to get BlackBerry to pay attention to us, and they're very nice. Don't get me wrong. I like dealing with them, but we're going to be delayed on getting BlackBerry devices for a while, guys. So please be patient with us as we build our reputation with them.
Email me after this, Michael, about BlackBerry.
I will.
So to answer your question, I think about BlackBerry the same thing I think about Microsoft, and I think that the entire situation is out of their control. And I think to explain my thoughts and my statement, BlackBerry did exactly what Microsoft did. Microsoft laid down on its laurels with Windows Mobile 6.5, and just waited for Android and iOS to catch up. BlackBerry did the exact same thing. No new devices, no news, nothing for 2 or 3 years, a period of time in which Android and iOS were blooming, and now they're just fighting to get back something from what they lost, approximately 70% of their market share.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a trust issue. I mean, you cheat on someone, or you lie to someone, or break their heart, anything, and trying
in this case,
to get
they
that,
ignored.
or be ignored. But like trying to get that back after the fact is much harder than it was to get the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Much more difficult.
And I will say this, that we have to give them a little bit more credit. And that they did try, okay? I mean, the Storm is a big joke, but they tried with the Storm. They tried with the Storm, too.
The Z10 is nice.
They tried their darnest.
Well, they tried with the Torch. I'm talking about everything before BlackBerry 10. Like, they actually did try branching out. The problem is they didn't go far enough, and they didn't do well enough. So, they didn't just sit there.
Separating a touch from a click action was brilliant, but very, 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 very poorly executed.
Yeah, I agree. I think the concept of the Storm was one of the most compelling things I'd heard of. I mean, like a touchscreen that also has physical feedback. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's the way to do it.
No.
Yeah.
A single button in the middle of the display.
No.
Yeah, that was bad. Even the Storm 2. Like I said, I have a friend who still has the original Storm, and I weep for her every night. I told her I would give her an iPhone.
Yeah. Oh.
I was like, please.
Let's move on to listener mail, unless you guys have a final point about BlackBerry.
I'm nostalgic.
Are you?
Yeah.
One thing I keep hearing
for
people
what,
say.
Tony? Hold on. What for what?
I love my Bold 9000.
I loved
the
mine
original
too.
Bold. Yeah, man. I never had it. I never owned it, but the original Bold came out just as I was getting, I think, my iPhone 3G, the only iPhone I've ever actually bought. And I went into the AT&T store and I saw the Bold 9000. And I was like, oh, wow. This is beautiful. And that made me miss my Curve 8350i, which nobody had. And I liked that, too. But yeah, I agree. Best keyboard ever. No,
I was a BlackBerry fanboy in the day.
I used to install custom apps back before, I had to install custom apps back in the day when the backlight wouldn't stay on. Like, you had to install a custom app to get the backlight to turn on when you pressed a button.
I had at least 20 different BlackBerries.
20?
Yeah, I loved BlackBerry. I was a BlackBerry fanboy, like a literal fanboy. I had the Bold 9000, the 9700, the Pearl 9130, I did have that one. The 8130, the 9130, the 8330, the 8900,
and people, these are not phone numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had all of them pretty much.
Guys,
I loved BlackBerry. I ran a BlackBerry site.
You know what I'm like here? What I'm really enjoying here is that I think as recently as 6 months ago, we were sitting on this very podcast probably talking about how BlackBerry was very likely to close up shop in the next few weeks even. I think I probably said recklessly at one time or another. And now they've got 2 new smartphones, soon to be 3 new smartphones on the market. We're hearing all these returns of, all these rumors of high return rates and stuff, and some of them are being debunked and some are not. But, they're still around, and they're still selling units. I think that's very impressive. And
they were a massive company,
right? And also, though, they're building their ecosystem. More importantly, they're not just selling units; they're also building an app ecosystem very quickly. Even if you take porting from Android into account.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, kudos to them. Golf clap.
I do want to say one thing. I keep hearing people say Thorsten Hines. It's
Torsten.
Torsten.
Yeah.
Torsten people. Yeah. Torsten.
It's
like calling me Tyler. I'm not Tyler.
Hey, Tyler. Hey.
Oh, I get it all the time. I had a boss that called me Tyler every day.
No,
I'm like, it's
no way.
Taylor.
I'm leaving after the second day. Yeah, but speaking of which,
my name tag.
Don't call me Mike. People in the comments, don't call me Mike. I don't like that.
Mick.
Yeah.
What about Mikey?
Oh, yeah.
Mikey.
Oh, yeah, yes. If you really want bonus points, call me Michael Motorcycle. That'll really win me over. Go ahead, Tony. What were you going to say?
I was about to say that strange things happen to me when I'm on the podcast. I just had a notes application open on my computer, and while I was talking to you guys and listening and clicking left and right, and I closed the notes. And at one point I was being asked, do you want to save or not? And I haven't. So
oh no. So what
gentlemen, if I promised you anything by the end of this week, or you guys asked me to do something, then please send me the email again, because there was a 2-page note there which is now not being saved.
Tony. I'm sorry, man.
No recovery feature, huh?
No, that's for losers.
Yeah, of course. That's for reckless folks.
Who would do that?
Absolutely.
No, we're all cowboys here.
This is how exactly.
All right, well, let's jump into listener mail so we can get Tony's mind off his loss of data here.
I'm not sweating if you guys will.
Okay.
Can I just say that we are almost exactly on time?
We are. Well, if we weren't doing listener mail, we'd be on time. We're behind because listener mail. We have 3 pieces of listener mail.
We're on time.
Read on.
We're not on time. Randy Muth. Sorry, we just talked about mispronouncing names, and I'm going to do it to all these. Randy says, hi, Michael. First off, just wanted to say I always enjoy your reviews, and all the Pocketnow team is just doing a really great job. Thank you very much, Randy. Damn. So, yesterday, I rushed home since I saw that my HTC One waiting for me, but when I opened the shipping box that Sprint sent me, I had a very unpleasant surprise. There was no plastic film, all the stickers on the side to hold the 2 sides together were cut, and new ones were put on, and the new stickers were dirty. Sprint at first was like, oh well. After spending some time talking to a manager, Sprint is sending me a new one, but it won't get here for over a week. So, I'm just wondering, asks Randy, what your thoughts on getting a new phone where the wrapping is open? Have you seen this before or heard of this? And do you think it's petty for me to have Sprint send me a new one where the box has not been open? Randy, thank you for writing in, first of all. Second of all, sorry we didn't get to this. You've had your new HTC One for like 2 weeks at this point. This is a very old listener mail, but...
I think if my sclerosis is not kicking in, that he commented on one of my pieces and I replied to him, or there was somebody else with this exact same problem.
Story? Well, if that is the case and this has already been answered, then, it's just compelling to me because... The most fascinating part of this piece of listener mail to me is, do you think it's petty for me to have Sprint send me a new one?
Oh, no, not at all.
Absolutely not. No, if a product comes to your door,
go yell.
Absolutely. Bang the door down until they get you what you paid for. Like we've talked about this in other contexts with Apple sending out iPhones with dents and dings in the chamfered edge. We've talked about it with HTC One and its manufacturing inconsistencies. Absolutely. If something comes to it, I've sent stuff back for less. If a device comes out of the box and the screen protector has obviously been taken off once and then reapplied and it's got all those bubbles underneath it, get out of here. I don't want anything that's been touched by human hands that are not quality control people in the factory. If I'm buying a new device, I deserve a new device, and so do you, Randy.
Correct. You wouldn't buy a new car with 300 or 400 miles on it, would you?
Exactly.
I mean, it's no. You bought something new, you get it new, and you get it pristine.
Exactly. And
granted, I didn't get a new iPhone. I got an iPhone that was pretty banged up when I took it out of the box, but I didn't get it replaced. So
well, and that's the thing. I think it's a different story when you're getting a device that is on launch weekend and there's going to be a backlog or back order for 4 weeks. Well, maybe you have to sit there and live with that, and that really, frankly, sucks. But that's a different judgment call. Right now, with this kind of situation where you have an easy replacement, no, you're not petty at all, Randy. I think it's good. It's good that you did what you did.
The only way a phone should come with a screen protector or the plastic film reapplied is if it's a review device and someone else has had it first. And even then, I hate it.
Yeah.
Even then, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Sell it as a refurb.
Yeah, so the way that happens sometimes, listeners, is different outlets get different review devices at different times, and depending on your relationship with the manufacturer or the carrier, sometimes you're the first, sometimes you're second, sometimes you're third. So we've been in all three categories. We have different relationships with everybody. So whenever I get a second string review device that somebody else has had, I'm like, oh, you didn't put the protector. Oh.
That's when we go to unbox it, and everybody's like, "Fake! This is fake! You unboxed it already."
Were in there. Yeah. What's best is when the previous reviewer doesn't clear it first, and gallery is full of photos of like their disheveled apartment, and I'm like, oh well, that's cool, whatever.
I got one a few weeks back, and I booted it up, and when I did, it said wipe complete. I'm like, because I couldn't tell that it had been used.
Really?
The plastic on it was perfect.
Oh, it was probably an actual factory refurb then.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I opened the box and it said wipe complete. I'm like, what? No.
What?
I've been fooled.
Let's, second piece of listener mail here. This is from, I love this. Hey guys, my name is Daniel Belgioseda, in parentheses right next door. Come on, Michael, try it. It's the best I can do, Daniel. I'm your follower from Costa Rica. Awesome. Now, my sister is about to get a new phone, and she wants a smartphone with a physical QWERTY keyboard and a touch screen. What recommendations would you give her? What would you say, Q10?
Yep.
Yeah. If she's a new smartphone buyer, then the Q10 actually might not be a bad choice, considering I think we've said several times that leaping into a nascent ecosystem is a lot easier if you haven't come from a previous one. But if she's... go ahead, Tony.
If you can hunt down a Dell Venue Pro, go with that.
Oh, a Dell Venue Pro running Windows Phone 7.5.
That wasn't bad. But I just can't deal with sliders. I can't do it.
Yeah,
The Venue Pro was nice. I will give it that, but I can't deal with sliders.
But if she's on an OS, like the only other option then is Android, because iOS obviously doesn't have any physical keyboards. The only other option is to go with something like the Droid 4 from Motorola, which is probably called something different in international markets.
And Motorola Flip Out. The Flip Out.
It's old. Oh, or the Motorola Photon from Sprint.
Oh, man.
I reviewed back in the day. Or the Flip Out. The Flip Out.
Oh, God, that thing was so bad.
You know what?
Was that small square thing which flipped out, actually flipped out?
Yeah.
From its corner?
There were
and then
two of them.
Nokia had one of those, too. And the flip back or the back flip.
Yeah, backflip.
Yeah, with the screen on the wrong side of the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So all these are options you shouldn't go for.
Yes.
And neither should you go for the Palm Pre 3, even though I want to recommend that. It's so difficult. It is. We write an editorial about this, I feel like once a month or so, where it's like it's so difficult to find a physical QWERTY keyboard and a touchscreen and bundled into a good device.
Yeah.
Or you can find good devices. You can't find great ones.
They're all mostly haphazard, I guess.
Yeah. And so, Daniel, that's a very difficult question. She's not going to find a whole lot. And the only thing that I will say, and this is exactly what most people don't want to hear, is touchscreen keyboards are the predominant choice now. They're
much better too.
Well, they're better for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of people are hesitant to even try them.
Yeah. Just try out 8-pin. It'll change your life.
Get out of here. Yeah, Daniel. Unfortunately, you're just asking for a device category that's dying slowly.
Yeah, I've got an editorial on this later this week, actually.
Oh, cool. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll postpone the one I was going to write for next month.
Okay.
Tony, put that in your notes. Oh.
Yeah,
Well, start a new one.
I will.
I was wrong. 4 pieces of
You
listener
sound
mail.
crushed.
Yeah, poor Tony sounds just so.
I'm still looking at the empty trash bin.
Oh, you didn't finish her reader mail or his reader
Oh,
mail.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Daniel also asks about Jaime said something about using the VPN settings on his Android to get apps that weren't available in his country, running normally. Could you explain how to do it? Daniel asks. No,
There's no
cannot,
need to
sadly.
explain. I'm also in Jaime's shoes. I don't live in the US, but you don't have to have an actual VPN so that you can dig into settings and then do some hocus pocus there. You need to go into the Play Store, and while you are in the Play Store, you need to search for an application which is called, I'm browsing my list now, Hotspot Shield VPN. It is a free application which allows you slow VPN speeds in the US for US IP. But if you need higher speeds, there's also a subscription which will cost you around $9 per year. So that's, you just fire it up, Play Store sees you in the US, and boom.
Boom.
Huh.
Wow.
That's actually not bad.
I did not know that we were going to actually have an answer there. Thank you, Tony.
Yes.
welcome.
Glad we had you. Because
Yeah.
I would not know how
I
to
would
answer
not
that.
have known how to answer that at all. Start talking VPN, I really get lost quickly.
My eyes glaze over.
This Hi Pocketnow team from Gel Lohman, I think we've heard from Gel before. I was just wondering what everybody does outside of Pocketnow. Or is Pocketnow enough to be able to live
You
from?
don't want to know.
I think Gel means for employment, not for recreation. P.S. Is Brandon still vegetarian? Is he? I don't know.
Last time I checked, yes, he was.
Is he really? I was
don't
hoping
know.
to answer this when Brandon was on the air, but there's another piece of listener mail I want to answer when Brandon is on the air because it has to do with old school Pocketnow. So, to answer your question broadly, some of us work for Pocketnow full time. Others juggle Pocketnow and a bunch of other commitments. I actually still do that. I actually do still have other income coming from other places. But in addition to being full time, and then some of us are part time and full time elsewhere, and some of us are just contributors. And we have the whole spread, don't we, gentlemen?
Oh, yeah. I am full time.
All three of us on the air are
Yeah.
full time right now. Tony, Taylor, and I are full time. And
But I work on personal projects when I have a spare moment, which is not very often.
Do you get paid? Do you pay yourself from left pocket to right pocket?
Nope.
That's
Good
that
for you.
pro bono
Good-
doesn't count.
good cost
One-
savings.
Yeah, well, one day.
Yeah.
It counts because I'm working towards a goal, but other than that, it's not like I'm just building airplanes, like toy airplanes in my side or my spare time. I'm
interesting.
working on projects.
Interesting that you bring that up. See, I do that. I run a YouTube based business that focuses on scale model
I
stuff.
saw that.
with my
That's actually
father.
really cool.
Yes?
I love RC and stuff. So.
Oh, thanks. Oh, I didn't know you'd seen it. Yeah, Rapid Nadion. It's time for self pimping. Rapid Nadion.
Yeah, I saw the boat on the frozen lake.
Oh, you saw the ice boat. Yeah, that's not one of our more exciting ones. Watch the submarine missile launches. Those are fun.
Just link me to it.
I
want them.
sure will. I definitely will.
And I'll link you to the coolest video I ever saw on YouTube.
Guys, my dinner's getting cold.
Okay. Final piece of listener mail. Now that I don't have. Apparently.
Now that all major OEMs except HTC seem to be rehashing old designs with new features, gimmicks, and aggressive marketing drives, do you think that it's time to look at the small local OEMs like the Noids, the Yoda phones, and even India's Micromax as the innovation drives in the industry?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, LG.
I don't know who wrote this piece of email because I copied it.
That's
right, so sorry.
from Joe Lohman. It's a PS after the PS, or maybe it's a copy paste fail.
No, it's a copy paste fail. So this is a really good question, and yes, I think that the smaller companies are really going to prompt the bigger boys to stay on their feet as far as innovation goes.
Ooh, listen to that siren. Muted himself. LG is underrated as one of the innovators. They're not exactly one of the top brands. I guess they're among the top, but they're not the top brand. But they have pushed innovation for several years in the mobile space for now, or currently. They were the first with a dual-core processor.
Yeah, they're first with 3D. They're first with a bunch of stuff. But what about the really small guys, like the Yoda
Yoda phone?
of the world?
Yoda phone. I am so excited about that thing.
I was just talking to the Yoda phone guys.
I wish they would upgrade the specs for when it's actually ready.
Yeah.
which I'm afraid they probably will not do because that costs a lot of money.
Right, but it's an innovative concept, right? It's a dual screen
the
smartphone.
principle.
And
The
then
principle
you
is awesome.
The real question is, you guys, us geeks, are excited, but does the rest of the population care about Yoda Phone?
I don't think, not yet, because
Well,
it's
they don't know
not
about
terribly
it.
visible yet, but even when it becomes visible, right, are enough people going to care? Maybe not, but I think the effect that those kind of companies will have on the industry overall is profound, because the bigger guys will look to these smaller players and say, oh, that's a really good idea, and for lack of a better term, let's steal it. And,
They'll buy them out.
right, or they buy them.
Well,
right.
Yoda's not exactly small. They're backed by oh god, who are they backed by? Is it a Russian carrier? Like they're funded
Actually,
by.
no Russian company which goes international is small.
Yeah, well, the Russians don't do much small, right? I mean, like, that's
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah,
cultural
so-
thing.
Yoda, if I'm not mistaken, is backed by Russia's largest carrier.
Really? Well, I
I
wouldn't be
think I
surprised
read
with
it.
the elaborate booth we saw at frickin' MWC. Remember that, Tony?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna Google it.
So I think that, in short, yes, these companies play a vital role in ensuring innovation goes forward, especially in a climate where shows like CES and MWC are starting to feature the big players less and less predominantly, because the big players want to have their own shows, and these big CES and MWC shows like have to feature the little guys. And look at what little companies can do. Look at what 5 people started at Pebble, and that's an accessory. It's not a mobile phone,
Well-
but still.
Well, they were a company before.
Oh well, yeah, that was Impulse, but
Alerta.
or Alerta, yeah.
Yoda Phone is backed by the parent company Yoda. Yay! It is a significant player in LTE hardware, so they're no stranger to mobile phones. It's just
So they're like Huawei, where they have a big
Yeah.
infrastructure footprint. And yeah.
yeah.
Well, that is an awesome question. Sorry that we do not have you have your name on the air, because I'm an idiot. But I'll fix that in the post itself. And thanks to all the listeners who wrote in. Somebody tweeted at me earlier I just sent in a piece of listener mail, but it's very long. I wonder if it will be read. I'm so sorry. As you can see, we
5
don't have the
episodes from
time.
now.
Yeah, exactly. We just don't have the time for long listener mail. Please do write in, folks. The address is at the end of the show, but make sure and keep it brief, because we just don't have time for long emails. I'm so sorry. But unless either of you gentlemen have anything, do you?
Not at all. I need more coffee. That's it.
Me too. Tony, your dinner? What's for dinner tonight?
I have no idea. My mom is celebrating her birthday, and she's been spending the entire day in the kitchen. But judging by the odors and smells coming my way, it's gonna be good.
I'm sure it is.
As long as my trainer doesn't know about it.
That's right.
It's your cheat day, right?
Yeah.
No, but today it is.
Today it is. It will be. Well, then, in that case, let's get you to dinner, Tony, and let's get you some more coffee, Taylor, because that's going to do it for this episode of The Weekly. Find us on Twitter. Anton is at Anton D. Nagy, ANTONDNAGY, and you can find him on Facebook at OfficialADN. Taylor is at Casper Tech, CASPERTEK. As always, you can find me at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow on Twitter, Pocketnow on Facebook and Google+. Do leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music. We are missing those. And if you have a topic, question, or suggestion for the podcast, or you would like to say hello briefly, that would be wonderful. Email us at podcast@pocketnow.com. Thank you for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
See you later.
All right, guys, we got call recorder running. We're all sitting here. We sound great. I think it's about time we started talking about technology.
Sound great, and we look even better.
We look
Alrighty.
awesome. Yeah. Here we go. 3, 2.